Hi, my name is Connie Steele, and welcome to Freelance Business Month. And today we will talk about how building a fluid organization will help your business adapt to the growing needs of a flexible workforce. And by the end of this session, you will learn why the future of work necessitates being fluid, what the workforce wants in this new world of work, and how to create environments that foster highly successful people who engage with the workforce differently. Please ask your questions in the chats, and I will be able to answer them after my presentation. So let's talk about this new world of work, because obviously things have changed. It used to be one that was siloed, narrow, sequential, and quite linear and rigid, as we all can likely attest to. And it was one that was about conformity. Think of it being more of a industrial line way of working, very singularly path, almost, again, a term that some people may be familiar with is critical pathing. Now it's shifted. It's one that is much more collaborative, broad. It's agile in nature, dynamic, ultimately fluid, because it's one where it's about individual agency and expressing who you are. And we also see that convergence is happening. There's really been this big shift in mindset and approach where it's about and not being forced to choose and be in an or situation, because it's about work and life, personal and professional, EQ and IQ, data and gut. We live in a digital and physical world. We're thinking and doing constantly. And it's about identifying what our purpose is, not just profit. Because we're living in an environment where change is constant. As a result, uncertainty is the new certainty. We are dealing with this on such a macro scale, on such a global scale, that ultimately is having an impact on the environments, the companies that we're working in, which then has certainly an impact in our own personal lives. So these different layers, almost tiers of uncertainty and change can create quite a bit of anxiety. But what does this all mean ultimately? Well, when we talk about the future of work, the future of life, is about being fluid in nature. Our roles are going to be constantly changing in what it is that we do, but also where we work, when we work, what we're working on, the goals around it, our mindset, who we are personally, because we're not one dimensional. The way we go about working and the organizations that we work for and the way they approach it as well. What does this all mean? Well, for individuals, we're now a product and service on the web, whether we like it or not. We have to look at building our own brands, because if you think about LinkedIn, for example, it's almost an Amazon for professionals. Companies and people now need to go with the flow to adapt. Subsequently, everyone is in a constant beta state to be their best self. We're all trying to figure out what really is able to bring out our best. Because what do we want now? It's more than just the traditional definition in the past of what success was. It's really about being better, doing better, and finding that balance, whatever balance may look like for you. I know balance certainly is difficult to achieve, but it may not be the typical 50-50. It is just in the end, it feels what's right for you. Because we have this growth mindset. We always are testing, learning, iterating, because we want to grow and improve. We're looking to identify our purpose. What is our why? We're not singularly pathing, we're parallel pathing because we want to fulfill these interests, talents, ultimately goals that we have. We don't just have one goal, we have multiple goals. And we want to have that impact of doing good in the world so that all of this can reflect our whole self. So let's continue down the path of what does the workforce want? And I'm sure many of you have heard this as well in research in media, but attitudes towards work and career include tighter integration with work and career and life. In research that we did to better understand what the workforce wants and what it takes to be successful, we found that 62% of US workers agree that work and career are fundamentally integrated into their personal life. And they're also looking for flexibility in really where they work and when they work. But in addition to that, they also have this attitude about really expressing their individuality, which we talked about before, where over half of professionals have indicated their ambition isn't being tied to a company. And as we talked about before, it's about ongoing development. They know it's important. The workforce in general knows it's important to constantly build up skills, whether it's in your field or potentially outside of your field, because you never know. Maybe there's a desire to expand on your knowledge or maybe even pivot at some point. Well, then what does it take for workers to feel successful? Ultimately, what we learned when we looked at various activities that people do to really determine that satisfaction with their career progress, it's having that career plan, identifying those goals, and having that roadmap to help you get there, in addition to the right people, such that it could be a network that you have as part of that network. It's those mentors and sponsors, but you have to have a village of people to help you achieve what it is you want to achieve. But further, your environment has an impact. So for those who felt highly successful in their career, they were significantly more likely to work in environments where there was investment in the development of their people, their shared values, encourage mobility and transparency, and they give them the right tech tools and policies to help them work best. Ultimately, they're really focused on the needs of their employees. But unfortunately, many don't feel successful today in what we found. Only about a third. So, what is the implication to organizations? Well, one of the key things that an organization can do to support people is sponsorship and mentorship. We had asked workers and the people in the study, all different work statuses, but which of the following does your workplace have? What are those important characteristics? And we know that formal sponsorship and mentorship programs have a incredibly strong positive relationship with career success. But unfortunately, what we found is that many don't have it. So without like access to some important characteristics, many people feel a bit of difficulty in being able to move forward. But that piece is just really one almost microcosm of really a bigger aspect that we have to look at. It's what do people really need and how can you create better alignment between leadership and people? And it's shifting that mindset and that attitude, that behavior to establishing a more human-centered and fluid organization. As I mentioned before, change is constant. Uncertainty is a new certainty. Fluidity is the future. But it's about people. People have to be more fluid. And if your company is composed of people, subsequently, your organization has to be more fluid. So, how do you do that? Well, realize that it's understanding your target audience. It's people. Know their needs, their wants, their challenges, and their goals, just like organizations, businesses need to understand their target customer. It's also about iteration evolution, continuous improvement to achieve the company and employees' goals, not just the company's goals. Obviously, right? You have to look at the company and employees' goals. And let's focus on what matters most. While, as we talked about, formal sponsorship and mentorship programs have that strong impact, organizational support is certainly much more than that. So it's important to really look at all those aspects that you can do to support your employees so they can do their best work. And some key tenets in order to establish that transformation, there are four: alignment, investment, transparency, and a shared purpose. So alignment in the goals and interests of the company to the goals and interests of the people that work for you. The investment in people and their development. Transparency, being open and honest, because many do not feel that level of communication maybe there. Lastly, really having that shared purpose, understanding the company's why, and employees feeling that they are a part of that why and they can help build towards that strong why. So in the end, there is a mutual value exchange. So when you think of what your organization needs to do, you do strategic planning all the time because you've defined what those goals need to be, and subsequently, the roadmap that will help you get there to achieve it. So just as you need to adapt, you're thinking of a very in prior times, it was probably more sequential, but now you're shifting to planning where it has to be more dynamic and fluid. But as you think about strategic planning, think about how your strategic planning needs to be in alignment with the strategic planning of the people that work with you and work for you. Because alignment is ultimately key. What you have to do is test, learn, iterate, and ultimately grow together. Because if you want to do great things, you have to invest in your people. So understand the value of those that work for you. And as we know, the freelance community is growing in nature. They deliver significant value. So they're a part of that as well. Spot those trends. Do that research and analysis with your own people to know what their strengths, challenges, opportunities, and threats are. Create that clear and compelling vision that gets the alignment and commitment. When you go through that exercise, you'll probably also understand, well, what is our why? And has there been a disconnect on our why? Or maybe we haven't been clear on our why. Ensure that you're proactive in your communications and do it frequently. Realize that change can create fear, which then creates uncertainty. So work collectively to manage that fear. Change management at the end of the day. And don't just think of building, your own network, as a leader or as a company, as a business. You're always building relationships and alliances. But as you think about all of the amazing people that work for you, help them build their network too. So the stronger the village, these individual employees or freelancers or contractors or gig workers, whatever they are, but they're people, help build their village as well. Because in the end, in the long term, you can mutually help each other. In addition, it's important to focus on modeling and teaching soft skills to create the right culture. There's been a lot going on. So have empathy, listen, and observe. So again, you can test, learn, iterate, and grow together. Thank you so much for being a part of this event. You can find more information about the research that I shared in this presentation at conniewsteele.com/research. And you can also connect with me via my website or by searching Connie Steele on LinkedIn. And you can also connect with me on this event platform.